Hello everyone, I'm Mithra. Welcome to the second developer diary for my homebrew content for Kingdom Death. I have another video on the channel, just the first developer diary for the first version of Curse that I made. Curse is a custom Wanderer. Wanderers will be in the Gambler's Chest. They'll be a much smaller thing than what I did. I can guarantee that. But it's inspired, or the Wanderer system is what I set out to create. I like the idea of a survivor coming to your settlement at some point and having an entire story attached to them, and it changes how you play based on what they do when they come. So that's what Curse is. Now, the reason why this one is called version 2 is version 1, that video or that thing was entirely just the PDF. All you needed was the PDF that I released, that you could just use your phone, you could just use a tablet, use whatever you're doing where you play Kingdom Death. That was all you need. Everything was self-contained in that PDF. You didn't need to print anything out. So that version still exists. That is version 1. That is, you can find the links to it. It is listed there in the description for this video. So that is still going to be up. That is still 100% complete, in my opinion. It's great. You can still play it with just the PDF. The difference with this version is there are print and play aspects for Volume 2, or version 2, as well as a tabletop simulator. All those things, I've created custom assets for that. So this is a much broader, much more expanded upon version, which will require things to be printed out. I tried to keep it as a minimum as I could. It's not like you're printing out AI decks. Everything will be included in the PDF. There is a print and play version right in the PDF. So if you download the PDF, it's going to be the last 5 or 6 pages. I haven't finished them. They're not finalized. But as far as the video for this, as far as Curse goes, everything that is gameplay there, all her story, everything is complete. That's what we're going to talk about now. Now, I would highly recommend you go and watch the first video. I'm gonna not... Well, we're gonna jump into what Curse exactly is. But that is what it is. This video is going to be a homebrew discussion on Curse. So that means this will be hugely spoilers. I'm going to talk about everything. And just like the first video, I'm going to do a introduction to what it is. So you could listen to it. I'll describe what it is, how I designed it, and I'm not going to spoil anything. It will just talk about the I'll do the YouTube divided up into, this is the intro, here is what Curse is, here is the first intro event, and then everything after that is spoilers. So let's go look at the PDF for Curse. Here we are. It is right here. So you can see here, this is Curse the Wanderer. This has not changed since the first version. This is all the same. I'll talk about what has changed and everything. This has changed drastically. So as you can see here, the table of contents is at page 42 is where the print and play stuff starts. And there's all kinds of stuff in here. So you can see page 38 is where spoilers begin. So her module herself is 37 pages. And then you go into spoilers and the glossary. That's where everything that's in there is all. It's a quick reference. And then there's 39, 40, and 41. They have KC here. So that stands for the King's Coin expansion. The King's Coin is a CCG expansion that is King related. Curse is also King related, or not King, Kingsman related. So King's Coins here, these are Kingsman related expansion. So this integrates with that using these 3 events. These will tie into the King's Coin CCG expansion. And then you see here, print and play cards, start page 42. We'll talk about all those things, but there is tons of stuff that has changed. I mean, she used to be 28 pages, I think. I think her module was 27 pages in version 1. Now it's going to be a lot more. I think 46, 47 pages. The reason why I don't know exactly is I need to get... This PDF doesn't include a back. I still need to get a back page, which is, the back of the booklet I showed you. Here's the front of the booklet. I still need to get a back page on here, which of course won't be labeled. But I'm just saying, there's some things in here that are missing. I have to do a couple gear backs. There might be touch-ups. Maybe I'll read some of this stuff. There might be some touch-ups in there that I might want to go make. But as far as everything goes, her narrative is finished. So, I'm going to get into that. But before I get into any of those things, the credits here, as you can see, all credit goes to Adam Poots for creating the game. I've used all his artwork from Kickstarters, from everything, from store things. I've had tons of suggestions for how to write this. CCG was very helpful. I posted, as I was making this, I posted pages in the Discord. Some people said you should probably reword it like that. So there's tons of people who helped me with the writing. Graphic design, again, all that I just laid out. I created all these pages, but none of this. So with the Maximo, he's the person who gives all of his the CCG. He provides them with all kinds. They've got it listed on their drive. Basically, none of this would have happened without the help from CCG. So the content creation group is what CCG stands for. They make all kinds of Kingdom Death custom content, custom homebrew. They're immensely dedicated to what they do. Without their help, and this wouldn't look as good as it would be. It wouldn't look as good as it is. They've helped me make it basically as perfect matching to the game Kingdom Death as possible. So immense thank yous to them. The reason why version 2 even existed was because I wanted to make something for them to put on their Patreon in exchange for all the help they gave me with my original version 1. So that's why this has more Tabletop Simulator stuff, more print and play stuff, more make playing cards stuff. All that stuff will be put together and put up on there. So that's where this will go. So a big thank you to the CCG group. So now we're going to... So I'm going to call this section the introduction of actual Curse, right? So this is just going to be quick. Again, I've already done a version 1. Nothing has changed as far as the intent and what to expect from the expansion, or what to expect from this Wanderer, right? What it is it's a branching narrative. That's what this is. So Curse will come to your settlement, and you'll make choices. You'll role-play the decisions. You'll do them based on other choices you've made throughout your, your settlement, your innovations, whatever fighting arts you have. All those things, you're going to be able to use all that stuff to make choices, and it will branch to 3 paths, is what originally was in version 1. This has there's a lot of stuff that's different. It's still 3 major paths, and that have twists in them now that I've added, now that I can do custom cards and custom fighting arts and all those things and all kinds of new stuff. So the non-spoiler thing is what you can expect is 3 100% completely different paths that you would have to replay this module to get. They're not connective, right? There's no way to cross. You're never going to be able to cross them, right? Now, there's a lot of different endings. There's multiple endings. There's ways that branches, paths lead to different endings within that path, but 3 main splits. So you would have to play this 3 times to just experience the major differences, the major choices. And then from those major choices, there might be 4 different endings that could come. So I think the amount of endings that are in this, I think, is 11. But either way, that's what it is. That's the whole intent of this. I'll go over it quick, but as far as for the pitch and the setup, that's it. So if you enjoy, or if you've ever wanted a branching narrative or a story to be told, lantern year after lantern year after lantern year after lantern year, that is what this is. It requires the Butcher, it requires the Kingsman, and requires Watcher. So this was designed for core game only. You could use this with nothing but the core game, and you're good to go. That's what this was designed for. People who just have core game. Watcher being part of it is new to the second version. The original version just required Butcher and Kingsman. So I'll just read it here. So this Wanderer is designed to be added to the King Death Monster core game and includes new cards and was designed with the intent for players to be able to enjoy the content needing only the book. Now, when I say that statement, I mean that there's print and play included. So print and play is included, so you just need the PDF and then you could cut and print all that stuff. As far as like Tabletop Simulator and stuff, I have a whole asset where you get the PDF and I've made all the cards and everything. And there will also be my playing card links and all that stuff too. So, the last pages of this book are designed for print and play. Other than those cards, the components inside the core box, all you will need. So, this Wanderer is designed to be added to the King of Death Monster core game. This Wanderer may also work in other campaigns. Campaigns must include both the Butcher and the Kingsman. And this Wanderer may never be added to a People of the Stars campaign. To add Curse to your current campaign, add the Final Girl, a story event found in this book, to Lantern Year 16 on the timeline. If your campaign is beyond Lantern 16, you cannot include this Wanderer. So, I actually need to edit here that it needs Watcher. There's Watcher things here. So I do need to edit this. I'll go do that after I finish doing this. So, new rules. There are new rules here. Alternate pages included the King's Coin expansion. I already talked about this. So you'll just use the KC. So if you're not, that is CCG content. If you're not using King's Coin, you just ignore this. Special hunts. Curse includes story events that have a special hunt. Upon selecting a quarry, you must select a monster and level that places it beyond the overwhelming darkness space on the hunt board. Do not place basic or monster hunt event cards in the first 5 spaces of the hunt board. Instead, use the number on the track to find the corresponding basic hunt event from the hunt event table. Set up the hunt track as normal for spaces beyond overwhelming darkness. When survivors land in overwhelming darkness space, they instead resolve the event included in the special hunt. Survivors may not pass over this space and must stop to resolve it. So there are special hunts in this. I believe there are 4 of them. Each one tied to one of the narrative branches or one of the main narrative paths. There's 4 of them because there's alternating paths down those branches, there's alternating branches off of those paths. Story events added to the timeline with notes. So, Curse includes a narrative with branching story paths. As players progress through the story, they will be presented with many choices. These choices have an impact on the narrative that is told. Consequences of the choice will be added to the timeline along with the story event. When instructed, the player must add the note corresponding to the story event. So then you add, for example here, add story event, which is just a generic name, to the next timeline with the note. Then you would then add it to the timeline as story event, note. Simple, new rules. What models to use? So, there are no dedicated models for Curse from Adam Poots Gaming, or from Adam Poots Games, LLC. Use the model that fits the narrative you experience that is included in the core game. If you own other Kingdom Death models outside the core game, this expansion includes the opportunity, so I guess this could be spoilers. Spoilers here, I guess, kind of. This expansion includes the opportunity to use Young Rachel, Lantern Guard Male, Lantern Guard Female, the Pinup Butcher, and a Pinup Kingsman. So, there you go. Those are what the models to use. So, that's all new for version 2 as opposed to version 1. Version 1 had none of that stuff included. So, that's the pitch. Now you know what Curse is. It's just a branching story. So, you know, I'm someone who really enjoys Dungeons & Dragons or other tabletop RPGs. Person who enjoys narrative branching story paths, stuff like that. That is why I made this. So, if you're looking for something like that from Kingdom Death, this is a good option. I would say right now, if you want to go in blind, you can stop here. If you want to know more, the first Curse video is going to go way more into it as to what Curse actually is. This video from this point forward is only going to quickly discuss the original paths and what was originally intended for them, and then only look at new things, right? But in order to, to go into that new stuff, I need to kind of go over what Curse was. So, from this point forward, it will be spoilers. So, if you're cutting out, I highly recommend coming back. If things are hard to understand or hard worded improperly, I can only get so much playtesting done. I can only read it so many times, but there might be things in there. And as you just saw with the new rules, I need to include Watcher in there. So there might be things that I find. This video would help you, because then you'd be able to know my intent and how things are supposed to be worded. Rules as written versus rules as intended. So, if you're cutting out here, I hope you come back. If not, I hope you enjoy the module. It will be great. I found it fun. Feedback was good on it. So, thank you so much. Let's go into spoilers now. So, again, I have to keep saying the first video. The first video will go into this so much more, but I will quickly... This is the very first event, right? There's no branching. There's nothing that happens before this. As you can see here, 2 of the main paths. This is what you're going to be presented with when you first play Curse, right? You're going to be presented with the Final Girl. This is the one that's added to Lantern Year 16. This is a Butcher event. That's the Lantern Year, that Butcher level 2 comes to the settlement. So you'll be presented with this, the Final Girl. This is a story path. This is the one that kicks everything off. This is... As you see, I'll read a little bit of this. So, clad in armor and wielding a lantern halberd, the girl falls to her knees before the residents of the settlement. Speaking a language no one can understand, you are inclined to believe she is begging for help. Drenched in what appears to be her own blood, you can tell she may not survive without aid. Suddenly, a familiar figure slowly walks into view. A monster thought to be a singular event has returned. The rage-fueled instrument of death makes its sequel appearance. Does it want the girl, or is it here for more? Right? Again, if you're horror movie tropes, and that's what the Butcher is, I mean, he's just a horror movie trope. He's pretty much just Jason Voorhees. The Final Girl plays up to that trope. That's why it's called this. Again, now, here's where some differences. This one didn't really change from version 1 to version 2. I've altered some things here, but the main big one here is... nominate one survivor to choose whether to reject or save the girl. All departing survivors gain +1 courage. If the nominated survivor... I need to add survivor there. If the nominated survivor elects to save the girl, they gain the following ability based on their gender. A male survivor gains a Knight in Shining Armor. A female survivor gains Big Sister Instinct. So, these are abilities, and I've included what they do right here. So this is Knight in Shining Armor. Was in Part 1. Or was in version 1, and this was the only instance in which it was referenced, and then a little bit more down one of the paths, it was referenced again. However, version 1 testing and everything, I could have done a lot more with Knight in Shining Armor. And now I have. So that's one of the big changes for this specific event. Knight in Shining Armor and Big Sister Instinct, the survivors who gain those are referenced a lot more throughout the story now. So, and then you see here, these are where two of the big paths begin. You're either going to reject or save, and that's it. As you can see here, you get two different things. After the showdown, you search the area, or after the showdown, tend to the girl, right? That's it. You've already branched. Right away, you're offered a branching narrative right here, right from the start. So you're either, these two things are likely not going to cross again. They can. I've given ways for them to cut back if you've decided you didn't want what's playing out. But other than that, that's the intro. From here on, everything will be spoilers now, right? Everyone's going to experience that. This is the very first thing. It's spoilery, right, if you want to go in 100% blind, but from this point forward, spoilers. Okay. Let's talk about quickly the concept of a branching narrative, right? So a branching narrative means that the intent here is when you make your choice here, you're going to be taken in two completely different directions. And then, like I said, there's a way to kind of like go back on that, and that's the third branch, right? So those are the three you either do now. You're either going to save her, or you're not going to save her, right? You're just going to let whatever the dice roll effect happens. Then if you've decided, you know what, I wish I would have saved her, then you're going to go down that third path. Or, you know what, I wish I would have rejected her. They're both going to lead to that third path. So those are the three main things. So, from version 1, that third middle ground path, the judgment path, right? Where if you're, the intent here is, you know what, maybe you tended to her, but you know what, maybe we should have kicked her out after reading what happens. Or, you know what, actually, I think I should have probably saved her. Maybe, maybe that was a bad call. That's why that's third one's the judgment path. So the judgment path is what we're going to explore first, because that has the least amount of changes to it between version 1 and version 2. So the judgment path, again, it's tend to the girl or search the area. So here's search the area. Again, I would really highly suggest you watch the first one. I'm not going to spend as much time going into all these events. So this is why it's called the judge. So you see when you locate the girl, returning survivor, all this stuff, search the area, you get add judge the girl, or when you would have added tend. So if you go tend, then you can judge the girl here. So judgment's the third path. Here's the third path. So for judge the girl, the intent here was you use your principles. So you see the settlement is filled with heated debates about what to do with the girl. Many argue she should be killed. Many argue that you should save her. So then you use your principles. So priding themselves on the settlement principles, survivors will present arguments for and against killing her. Find your settlement principles in the settlement innovation deck and select 3. If fewer, select as many as possible. Nominate one survivor for each selected principle and find a majority using the tables below. The table with the most selected principles will decide the girl's fate. So then you decide the girl's fate. Here, you're going to... if the settlement decides to kill the girl, nominate one survivor to be your executioner, right? So you have collective toil, accept darkness. Collective toil is for her living. Accept darkness is for killing her. Survival of the fittest is for her living. Protecting the young is killing. Graves is letting her live. Cannibalize is killing. Romantic is letting her live. Barbaric is killing. So this has been altered slightly via playtesting. There was some more words in here. There was like added clauses. I removed them. This is a much cleaner way. So you decide the girl's fate. Let's say 2 of your 3 things nominated were on this list. So that means you're making the argument she should live. Then at the end, you go down. So you go this path, you do this, and then you add a second chance. All of these things add a second chance. If you go this way, arguments she dies, these just result in spreading curse right away. these result in it. So let's look at, so this is the judgment path. So a second chance, the story event here, a second chance. This goes back to saving, because now you've decided to let her live. So this is your route back to the save path if you really wanted to. And then arguments that she dies, a spreading curse. This is down the judgment path where you've now judged her and you're still going to kill her. So we're going down spreading curse. Here you have a spreading curse. Huge thing. Not much has changed here, pretty much at all. Also, if you kill her, you can get last meal, which is to cannibalize. Again, not much here has changed. Then, as you can see, once you reach this milestone, once you reach this story event, you can either exile the executioner or allow the executioner to stay, because the curse has spread to them since they killed a Kingsman. The girl is a Kingsman. So, and then these paths, none of this has changed. So this is all still the same from the, I think Off With Their Heads might have changed. Anyway, all these are very, very subtle changes. They're mostly corrected things or minor buffs to like understanding or minor bonuses to the rewards based on playtext feedback and play results I've gotten from people who played version 1. So just balancing down the third path. So then, as you can see, that leaves Off With Their Heads. Noble return or giving back to the settlement. Again, that's the judge path. Let's go down the save path, because the save path, again, has the next lowest amount of changes from version 1 to version 2. So the save path, let's say now you've saved her. Again, now you've tended to the girl. The group must choose. Again, so you grab her before she escapes. That goes down to judge. We just talked about the judge path. We're going to add without words. So without words, so here's what happens. Now, from this point forward, I know, well, I've already spoiled the judge path, but now I'm going to go into the actual intent of all these things, reading all these events, explaining the story. This is heavy, super heavy spoilers, right? So, without words. So let's talk about how you get to this situation now with the girl. So when the girl shows up, as I read, she's covered in blood or whatever. Butcher shows up right behind her. You either reject her because you don't want anything to do with that, or you save her because she's bleeding and you're like, well, whatever. So when you tend to the girl, we'll read this now because now I'm going to go down the new path stuff, and in order to like best explain why I made changes, you need to know the story leading up to this. So this is the save path here. The encounter with the butcher has left the girl in critical condition. Her back wounds are deep, and she lies motionless on the floor of an empty hovel. Underneath the dried red-black fluid that appeared to be blood, the survivors notice her face is scarred. Curious, a survivor wipes away the fluid, revealing the scars to be old, too old to be caused by the butcher. So, let's do some lore discussion, right? For everybody who doesn't want to actually play this, but just wants to hear talk about why I did things, or just wants to hear talk lore about Kingdom Death lore. This is just filled with lore. I'm going to spoil it all here right now. So, let's talk about it. The encounter left her in critical... Her back wounds are deep, and she lies motionless on the floor of an empty hovel. Underneath the dried red-black fluid. This is revealing that it's not necessarily her blood. It's a dried red-black fluid that appeared to be blood. This comes from Lion God. This is something that we'll talk about, but this is directly from Lion God. So if you watch the first version, I've already spoiled all this stuff, but it's not her blood. And her face is scarred. Well, her face is scarred because she's already gone through the transformation. She's from a People of the Stars campaign. So, you know, the Dragon King expansion. She's already been awoken. She's already done her whole thing. That's why she has scars on her face. Her story has already been told. She's from late, probably like Kingsman level 2, level 3 is the Kingsman she fought to become cursed. Survivor wipes away the fluid, revealing her scars to be old. Again, that's why they're old scars. Suddenly, the sound of a horrific crunch can be heard as the girl's ribcage bursts from her chest. Right? This is her becoming a Kingsman. This is directly from the Kingsman thing. This is a curse spreading for her. She violently springs from her unstable condition and begins to vomit. What appears to be acid pours from her wounds and chest, encasing her body and solidifying into armor. Again, this is the Kingsman transformation. So, shocked and afraid, the girl flees from the hovel and towards the settlement entrance. The survivors give chase as she stops just outside the settlement. The girl's in a panic, looks confused, most of all scared. So the reason why I needed to get her out of the settlement is the more time you spend in the settlement just being around the Lantern Horde, just being around the Watcher, this even goes for like the Sun Pool and stuff, you just learn the language, right? So she needs to be taken out of the settlement, beyond the walls, so she's not influenced enough to learn the survivors' language, right? That's why she needs to leave. There are hunt events that allude to survivors coming and instantly learning your language, things knowing a different language, and then learning it or crumbling away when you get within the Lantern Horde. So, we've already gone down Judge. The reason why you would now judge her is you don't like this. Or, the survivors watch as the girl falls to her knees, exhausted from her adrenaline rush. With open arms, the settlement welcomes her to stay. And then you add without words, because again, she can't speak. If you nominate a survivor with Knight in Shining Armor or Big Sister Instinct ability, in place of rolling, you may treat the roll as Lantern 10. So this is added new. I did not have the Knight in Shining Armor or Big Sister survivor included on here. This is new for version 2. Now, as you can see, they're going to play a much bigger role down the save path. So, let's just go down the save path. So we got without words. Here's without words. The girl seems to be overjoyed by the settlement's willingness to overlook her curse. Great, she's happy about it. Survivors try to help her in any way they can, giving her with spare bandages, helping her find a way to clean herself off, and even returning the lantern halberd that she had, right? Without the ability to speak to her, the settlement needs to ensure it conveys a clear and welcoming message. Again, she doesn't speak the lantern language or people of the lantern because she speaks the dragon language from the Dragon King. Suddenly, the girl seems to be troubled by something. A sign of panic fills the girl's face as she dashes towards the departing hunting party. She begins to speak very quickly, seemingly forgetting that no one will understand her. Again, she never has quite returned to the settlement yet. That's why she doesn't know the language. The departing survivors attempt to calm her and motion for her to slow down. Girl begins to sway back and forth, rocking her arms while they are in a cradle position. She begins to swing her halberd while holding it by the axe head, appearing to mimic butcher attacks, right? So she's trying to convey stuff without being able to speak. Departing survivors have some trouble deciphering the message. As they try to gather the meaning, the girl picks up some monster bones and smiles. It's become clear that she wants to go on the hunt. The survivors are now faced with some choices. What gestures do they follow up on? This is even a good idea to take the girl on a hunt in her condition. So now you nominate one survivor with the ability to depart this Lanterneer, and you choose one of the 3 options. So whoever talks to her needs the ability to depart. Can't nominate someone who can't depart. So you have 3 different options here, all down in the save path. What are you going to do? So first option is, again, nominate survivors gestures back and forth, or to the girl, the same butcher mimic. She gestures back by first cowering and then more butcher swings. What follows is a complete conversation using only gestures between the girl and the departing survivor. They gather. She wants to take them to the most interesting place. If the nominated survivor has Big Sister Instinct, again, this was all added from version 1. Version 2, version 1 had no Big Sister Instinct at all, and it did no reference to Knight in Shining Armor. So now branch 1 here from this save path, hunt 1 here, it uses Big Sister Instinct ability. It's hinting you should take the person with Big Sister Instinct on this. Right? Nominated survivor must depart. All departing survivors gain max survival in the following ability: Tactical Signals. Tactical Signals. You may encourage deaf survivors. You may encourage with a Shattered Jaw. So the Tactical Signals is, that's what they use in the military, right? It's a way for them to talk without speaking. So everybody gains that ability. And then before selecting a core of this Lanterneer, you do Hidden Secrets. So Hidden Secrets is down this branch. 2, not much has changed here at all from the version 1. You just add second chance. This is you just not taking her on a hunt. You've decided that it's a bad idea. You don't want to take her with you. And then 3, same thing. However, let's see. Nominated survivor mimics the cradle position, and the girl becomes ecstatic and hugs the nominated survivor. She then begins to collect stone fragments into a large pile. She smiles and gestures to the pile triumphantly. She gives each departing survivor a stone fragment. This indicates she will lead them to gifts. The nominated survivor has Knight in Shining Armor ability, so this indicates you want to take the Knight in Shining Armor down path 3. And they gain +1. Nominated survivor gains cross-arm block. Nominated survivor must depart. All departing survivors gains +1 understanding, +2 insanity. 4 selecting chords landing near lost loved one or lost loved one with the King's Coin. Right. So this is showing that if you want to play with King's, if you are playing with King's Coin from CCG, you should probably use this because this has King's Coin integration to it, and or if you just have Knight in Shining Armor. So now to Lost Loved One has some changes. We'll talk about those. Most importantly, however, Hidden Secrets has large changes. We're going to go down to Hidden Secrets. Here is Hidden Secrets. Here's an example of the new hunt. So you see, you just go on this hunt, then you reach Overwhelming Darkness, and you do Into the Catacombs. All of this is still worded exactly the same. So basically, I'm just going to give the gist. You go with her, she brings you to this location, you decide to do all this stuff. So, let's see what Into the Catacombs here has to say. Girl stands at the edge of a giant sinkhole. This must be the region she brought them here. Nominate a survivor to descend with the girl. They remove their gear to lighten the load, tie a rope around themselves, and then descend. So, if you played Lion God, that's what you're descending into. You're descending into the catacombs below, which is the Necropolis City or Silver City. That's where she brought you to. If the survivor has the Big Sister Instinct ability, they feel responsible to hold the rope for the girl. Right? They don't want the girl to be down there. Right? They don't want to be held responsible for her dying down there. So the Big Sister Instinct one, they feel responsible for holding the rope. If they are not nominated to descend, add -3 to your roll result. Interesting. Why would you want to add -3 to your roll result? If they are nominated, add +2 to your result. So if they go with the girl, you're going to add +2. So you see, here's the table results. A -3 would mean that if you rolled a 6, you're still coming out. So -3 would mean you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 is going to result in the bad result, right? If you do nominate her and she does go down with there, then you improve to 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or 7+, all use this result, right? So, sending her down there improves this happening, right? If you want the right side to happen, you should send her with. If you kind of want the bad result to happen, you should not send her with. You should have her hold the rope. So, it's a way to influence the result of the die roll, right? And you may want to do this. So, results 1, 2, and 3 are where the big changes are. Now, at the same time, I didn't want to punish people because this is punishing. The 1, 2, and 3 is a punishing result. You don't really want it to happen, but maybe you do, so you use Big Sister Instincts to get that to happen. Let's quickly talk about Open the Jar. This is gaining the Butcher's Blood ability. This is just the jar that's in Lion Guard already. I don't want to integrate Lion God into the game. With this, it's meant to be played with just core and the stuff on the print and play. So I've decided to make that ability, or make that gear that you gain, an ability in this. So let's talk about 1, 2, and 3. So basically, if you roll above a 3, or if you're not influencing it to roll low, pair repel into a vast chamber. The girl runs off and quickly returns with a large shiny rock. She must really love that rock. Add a second chance to the Lanternier with the note rock, right? So now she found herself a rock, and if you roll really well, you get a chance to open up the jar, which is like Capiopic Jar. I forget what it's called. Now let's read the big change here. The pair find themselves in a vast chamber. Golden sarcophagi are strewn about the rubble. The girl runs into a small room. Not wanting to be left alone, the survivor follows. Suddenly, the door to the room slams shut, cutting the rope. Everything in this room, aside from a very large, shiny rock, has been reduced to splinters and powder. The girl and the survivor are trapped. The pair is left for dead. Add Forsaken Kingsman to Lantern Year 19. Save the nominated survivor's record sheet until after that event, and then Silver Lantern. So you're going to resolve Silver Lantern. So what happens here is the girl is lost, and whoever went with her is also killed. Lore-wise, what's happening here is when you open up this jar, you go insane. Like, because it's butcher's blood, you just go into a frenzy, a mad frenzy, and you start destroying everything. So clearly, that's what's already happened, is everything in this room has already been destroyed. And when she entered that frenzy, the first time she poured that stuff, this is the fluid that looks like her blood. She showed up after she poured this on herself. She shows up. She's just fueled with butcher's rage. She destroyed everything, and she lost her rock down here, because she has Levelorn rock. That's her one of her disorders. It's one of her survivor things. So you lose a survivor on the hunt here, right? Whoever was nominated to go down with her, you've lost her. You've lost them. They're dead, and that's pretty bad to lose a survivor on the hunt. So you've now resolved Silver Lantern. This gives you a survivor back. So this is new stuff. The survivors pull a rope up from the vast chamber at the bottom of the sinkhole. Without the added weight of the two survivors, this is a simple task. They peer down the sinkhole one last time, hoping to see some sign of their two lost party members. If any survivor has a big sister instinct ability, so this is meaning that the ones who were left holding the rope here, you want you would like it to be someone with big sister instinct. They gain the traumatized disorder. They gain that because the rope's cut and the girl's lost. They feel responsible for them. As the group waits at the edge, gazing in the maze of catacombs, they notice what appears to be a small silver lantern flying around. Darting in and out of the cracks, lights a very ominous presence to them. It's a good choice not to venture down to the rooms below. Tranced by these lights, the survivors take a moment to watch them dance in the darkness. This is when they notice that one light is larger than the others. It is a light from a lantern. However, they cannot make out the figure in the lantern light. So this is the figure in the lantern light. This is essentially young Rachel. That's why she's here, depicted in this. This is the story of Lion God introduction. That's why it's tied to this. The young boy who runs away and finds the Silver City. They're chasing these lights. So that's what young Rachel does. She's just from another... she's actually from another People of the Lantern settlement. So she knows what the Watcher is. So, right here. A young girl is chasing one of the lights. As the lights dart into the cracks, the girl scans the edge of the sinkhole for a way down. The survivors worry the young girl will meet the same fate as their party members did, and they attempt to gain the attention of the girl while rushing over to her. And the survivors introduce themselves to the hunting party for their settlement. They warn her of the danger that may lurk in the catacombs below. Unknown monsters stalk those chambers. It is far too dangerous to go alone. The girl does not appear to respond. She appears to be entranced by the lights, just as the survivors were. The survivor asks her name. Another asks about her parents. Another asks about her settlement. Questions lead nowhere and garner no response. She appears to suffer from total brain lock. Language must be the hurdle, much like the girl the butcher chased. One last attempt, survivors offers the girl some of their hunt rations, and they tell her they will protect her from the monsters. They are hunters after all. Finally, in a faint whisper, the girl tells them her name is Rachel. If any survivor has a big sister instinct ability, they share their rations. Alright, so, as you can see, the girl can respond. She knows their language. She must be from a settlement with a Watcher. That's the only way she would have been able to respond to them, because they're not in the settlement, and the Lantern Horde and the Watcher itself doesn't influence the survivor to learn the language. So, start a new survivor record sheet. The girl's name is Rachel. Gain +1 survival for recording her name. She has the traumatized disorder, so she's traumatized. And the Creature Comfort 1 Secret Fighting Art. So we have new things. Creature Comfort Secret Fighting Art. I've created this. it's really interesting. I'm gonna talk about the creature comfort thing. I'm just gonna explain this. The survivor has 2 ranks of whip proficiency, 2 hunt experience, 1 accuracy, 1 strength, 1 evasion, 1 d10 survival, 1 d10 insanity, 1 d5 understanding, 1 d5 courage. Again, this is Lantern Year 17, so replacing a survivor, you probably need someone good on your hunt, right? You were probably hunting level 2 or level 3. You might even been hunting like something really hard. You might have been fighting like hunting a lion god. You might be doing something that you're gonna need. So you need someone who's at least good and viable to at least hunt, right? What if you rolled bad and you didn't know that someone could have died, right? And now you've lost a really good person, right? So there's ways to make this person really good. And then resolve any milestones reached immediately, right? So if you reach anything, you're going to resolve it. Hence the 2 hunt experience. She's going to resolve age. So you want to resolve that before you do anything else. The reason for this is if you draw a fighting art you'd rather replace, you could do that now, right? I want you to naturally progress this survivor as if it were you leveling it up. So that way, if you gain a fighting art that you don't like, or you get a bunch of disorders, or get whatever from this stuff, you get the opportunity to replace it. So if a survivor has Big Sister Instinct, this is why I gave the ability to give a -3. So if you took the Big Sister Instinct and you really wanted to go down this path to experience it, you could do it. Right? Well, it's not a guarantee. Nothing with dice rolls a guarantee, but it'd be a 6 or less. 1 through 6 would get you down this path if you nominated Big Sister Instinct. They share the ration. Both her and that survivor gain Synchronized Strike, Secret Fighting Art, right? So now whatever you're going to get from age 1, plus Synchronized Strike Fighting Art. Roll 1d10 on the table below for additional bonuses granted to the new survivor. Start with table 1, and then resolve milestones before rolling on table 2. Again, I'm doing this so you have the ability to replace things, right? You should be able to customize this survivor. As of right now, she's going to have 3 fighting arts on her already before you even roll down here. So then you're going to do table 1, then you're going to do table 2. This survivor's current gear grid contains a ring whip, a lucky charm, cloth, and the Lagomorph lantern. Again, that's a new gear. I'm going to talk about all her new gear. I've created stuff for this. And the hunting party takes a moment to gather all this gear. You may now rearrange your gear grid and swap gear. Again, this is something you normally can't do, so I needed to add a clause for you to be able to do it. Do not archive any overwritten gear. Instead, return it to settlement storage. This includes the survivor's gear grid and gear. So if you didn't want to use ring whip or whatever, and you could just, again, swap it out. At the end of the showdown, if this survivor is still alive, add Scary Dreams to the next Lantern Year. So here's the table. Again, you're going to resolve this. She could gain, if you roll double 10s, she's going to be crazy. You're going to gain 4 more hunt experience. That's going to trigger age 2. Another random fighting art, 2 more weapon proficiency, 2 more permanent accuracy, 2 permanent luck, and 2 more hunt experience if you roll double 10s. Right? So I tried to make table 1 mostly going to be hunt experience and fighting arts, and table 2 is mostly permanent stats. So amazing. That's what this is. So this is essentially young Rachel. She's included. There's a mini in all 1.5 things. So if she survives, you're going to add Scary Dreams. Now, because Kurz died, that's going to essentially stop her story. So Curse here, she's going to be Forsaken Kingsman. So again, Forsaken Kingsman, you can watch Curse video 1 for all that. We're going to quickly go down there, but Curse ends here. Her story ends. And, well, she's going to come back. Let's go to Forsaken Kingsman. Scroll all the way down, man. There's so much stuff here. Where's Forsaken Kingsman? Okay, Forsaken Kingsman. This is an encounter, right? So she's going to come back. Curse will come back because eventually she survives down there in the catacombs. She's going to do all kinds of stuff. Again, I've already talked about all this stuff. You can watch the first video. The only thing that's new here is survivors also recover her weapons when you beat her, and you gain the Broken Halberd and the Kingsman Cleaver rare gear. So because she was covered in butcher's blood, because she's gone insane, because she's like been disbanded or been forsaken from not only from her original people to Stars settlement by the tyrant, but now she was left down there to die by the survivors when the rope cut. She's just super pissed. She goes super insane. She's basically, if you look at her AI deck here, she's got Berserker from the Butcher's Blood she poured on herself and Fast Target. She's a hybrid of a Butcher and a Kingsman. So you're going to have to fight a Butcher hybrid. And because she's a Butcher hybrid, she breaks her Lantern Halberd. She breaks it in half and uses the Kingsman, the Halberd head, as a cleaver, as a Butcher's cleaver. So we're going to go into what those are. So that's path 1 of the save path. Now, as the story is here, we're going to do Scary Dreams is the next thing we do if we survive with young Rachel. Now, this is new events. All this stuff is new. So Scary Dreams, they mostly come at night, mostly. This is a reference to, again, because Nemesis are highly based off horror movies, and this is a reference to Aliens 2 when they save Newt. I'm just treating young Rachel as Newt. So a lot of her stuff is going to overlap with that. That was the inspiration for young Rachel. She's Newt. And Big Sister Instinct, that's Ripley. So if you haven't seen Aliens, the second movie, it's great. Alien is also great. I like all the Alien movies, not the Alien vs. Predator ones, but they're all good. Even the flaws for Resurrected and the flaws for Alien 3, I still think they're good. The Alien 3 Director's Cut is also good. There, now I've reviewed it. So, the survivors invite Rachel to return with them to their settlement, and she happily agrees. Again, she can speak their language. It's not like Chris, because she comes from a settlement watcher. As the light from the Lantern Horde becomes visible on the horizon, Rachel slows her pace. Overwhelmed and increasingly anxious, she begins to straggle behind in her approach to the settlement. The hunting party make attempts to reassure her that the settlement is safe, and eventually they are successful. As a whole, the group enters the settlement. Now again, she's from a settlement that has a Lantern Horde. That's why she can speak the Lantern language. And remember, she's traumatized. So, Rachel is given a hovel all to herself. Unfortunately, her past traumas keep her company. Her dreams are haunted by the ultimate predator that awoke from within her settlement's Lantern Horde. She comes from a settlement that did not survive the Watcher, right? But she fled and escaped, even after the Watcher. All Lantern Hordes are just cocoons for this monster. Traumatizing thoughts like this keep her awake and clutching her lantern, right? So she uses her lantern as a comfort item. She must warn the settlement of the danger living inside the settlement's walls. If a survivor has Big Sister Instinct ability, Rachel informs them first. They agree to investigate the Lantern Horde with her and gain +10 insanity, +1 permanent evasion, and they lose their traumatized disorder, which they gained from, losing Curse. So they cure traumatized. A nervous hush falls over the settlement as Rachel tells the story of the Watcher. Slowly, the most daring survivors enter the vast chamber below the Horde, unknowing and undreamed of. Slumbering in the center, they see the ultimate predator Rachel described. You remove Watched from the timeline, right? You're not going to trigger Watched anymore. You remove it from the timer. This is now just acting as Watched. The survivors decide they must craft the perfect weapon to prepare themselves. Rachel shares with them her settlement's perfect fighting art. So you're going to get both of the Watcher from Watch rewards. You're going to get both those secret fighting arts. Gain ultimate weapon and gain final fighting art innovation. This does not count towards your settlement innovation total. When you were told, or when told to lose either one of these, you lose both. Because Watched, when you do Blackout, when you win, it tells you just to remove whichever one you chose. So this needs to make sure you remove both. Starting with this settlement phase, the survivors may awaken and face the sleeping menace. You may move Nemesis Encounter Watcher to as early as Lantern Year 20. So this moves it to Lantern Year 20, the same year you could normally fight it, but you're going to get an extra hunt benefit from having both things, which is crazy. You cannot move it to a year that already has a Nemesis Encounter. This is because you added Forsaken Kingsman, so Curse's story still finishes. So this is the end of that story now, right? As Curse is the main character, I didn't want to take that away. However, I wanted to tell a story still with young Rachel. Now let's talk about her gear. let's look. I'm going to use the print and play things, or I can pull it up. Let's see what the print and play cards look like. So here's an example of print and play. Here, yeah. So here's Creature Comfort. We can look at it here. It's a secret fighting art. This is a strain fighting art, mostly because I didn't want it added to any deck, right? It's just a strain fighting art, secret strain fighting art. I wanted it so hidden and locked away from ever being added to the game. I don't want it in your secret fighting art deck just in case there's something where you could gain secret fighting arts. I don't want any way access to it. So I've locked it really far behind. A lot of walls and gates. Secret fighting art, and it's a strain. All right. This uses this allowed me to continue telling her story without adding more events to Curse, which is just great. I had so much fun making these. So this is Creature Comfort 1. It's a stage fighting art, which is much like the Story of the Blood, or whatever the White Speaker one from 10th Anniversary White Speaker is. So, traumatized, you find comfort in your gear. When you gain the priority target token, you are knocked down. Again, as I said, she clutches her lantern. She uses it as a comfort. She uses it as a comfort thing. It's like a comfort item is what kids usually have, like blankets or teddy bears or stuff. She uses her lantern as a comfort item. So you treat Lagomorph Lantern as vital gear. Again, vital is what's attached to Final Lantern. It just means a gear special rule. This survivor cannot depart without this gear in her gear grid. So if you continue to use her after you gain her, she has to take that lantern with her. It's her comfort item. Observation. So what an observation is you gain a box, and then you check off the box, and when you check off the box, then you move into doing this. So you need to defeat the Watcher, right? She needs to defeat the thing she's afraid of. If you kill the Watcher, then you complete this, and then you advance to Creature Comfort 2. Creature Comfort 2. With the Watcher defeated, it's time to let go of your weakness. The settlement came together to overcome the challenge, and you will too. You cannot be knocked down if you have the priority target token, right? And then as you see, this is the illustration of her losing the lantern as she's fighting. So, observation, become the priority target to gain 1. So you need to do this 5 times to gain 3. That's why she has a whip. So with whip proficiency and stuff, you can get priority target on her not easily, but you can. So that's what this is. So then when you resolve that, you go to Creature Comfort 3. Creature Comfort 3 is you push past injury to defend others. Again, she's wanting to be the people who saved her from her trauma. She's wanting to be someone who's like a savior, right? Not a literal savior in Kingdom Death sense, but someone who protects others, like the settlement did for her. So while you are the priority target token, you cannot be knocked down. That's just what this is over here. If you gain the priority target token while another survivor has it, gain +2 evasion until the end of the next turn. Great for someone who's tanking. You kind of want to pass survivor around. A way to pass priority target around to survivors is using Big Sister Instinct. So it's designed for the two of them to go on fighting together, right? Because the Big Sister Instinct, she can put priority target on herself, and then you could take it off that person, and then you can do this. So become the priority target while another survivor has the token to do this. Now with these pinkish ones or these reddish ones here, they repeat. Unlike these blue ones here, where you complete it and then you advance to 3. Once you fill out 3, you strive to protect those around you. You lose 3, it clears itself. You roll 1d10. On a 4+, you mend 2 to all hit locations, which just means you heal even injury levels to all hit locations. And you could do this multiple times in a fight, because if you pass priority target around twice in one round, you're going to gain 2 of these. Once you fill all 3, you mend 2, you heal yourself, and then you can keep going. So this is her fighting art. Let's look at the gear. Gear here. So here's her Lagomorph Lantern. As you can see, it's just a rabbit lantern. She treats it like a stuffed animal. So this is what she needs to always have. If you moved 12+ spaces this round, gain +1 luck until the end of the round. Interesting here. So why I did this was As you can see, this lagomorph lantern, it's not necessarily great for her. The idea is you want to heal her so she doesn't need to take this around with her anymore, and then someone else uses it, right? Because it's good. You can gain someone with a lot of luck, but they got to have a lot of movement to do it. So it symbolizes her not needing it anymore. She's passing it on to someone else. That's what the symbol for the story is. So let's talk about Broken Halberd and Butchman's Cleaver here. Since I have them up, I'll talk about them. So Broken Halberd and Kingsman Cleaver. This is the reward you're going to see quite a bit from Curse whenever you fight her, because now that I can actually make things, this is what it looks like. So the Halberd's a spear, Kingsman's an axe, the Cleaver's an axe, I mean, and a lantern, since it is the top of a lantern halberd. If paired, meaning these two weapons can be paired together. See, it's paired with Kingsman Cleaver, paired with Broken Halberd. You pair these together, right? If they're paired, you gain Sharp and ignore Reach 2, right? So the idea is these still work okay when they're not paired. They're still viable. Pairing them together makes them better, but not amazing. They're probably on par with, like, Oxidized Lantern Glaive is what I wanted to be on par as, because you get these Lantern Year 19. And then this does not require pairing, but you add +1 to your Spear Specialization roll result with this weapon if you pair the blue. So this has Reach 2 and Deflect 1. So the idea here is she's fighting with the axe and then keeping people at a distance, just like what Kingsmen do. They're constantly 2 spaces away. She's keeping people at a distance, and she's using this basically as a shield. The staff here. She's just compromising people's footing and then attacking with the spear, or with the cleaver. That's her fighting style that she uses. It's a mix of a Kingsman and a Butcher. So now let's look at the cleaver by itself. This is sharp, but it's slow. So even though it's 2 speed, you can never make it be much higher speed. It's always going to be slow. But if you pair it, you remove slow. So pairing it, you just add the speed, becomes 3 speed. Same thing with this, you gain sharp, it gains 3 speed. And then after attacking, if standing, you may move 2 spaces directly away. That's just the Lantern Halberd. So there's some new gear. We've talked about it. These are just ability cards for references with Big Sister Instinct, Knight in Shining Armor, Tactical Signals, Butcher's Blood. For reference, we've discussed these. That's the path. Let's go down the other path quick. For the save route, which was changed only slightly, was Lost Loved One. Go Lost Loved One. Here's Lost Loved One. Again, so Lost Loved One here is if any survivor has Knight in Shining Armor ability, they spend extra time consoling the girl. Again, Lost Loved One, this is just her returning to her settlement. Not much has changed. I suggest you watch the original video. They gain Analyze and Matchmaker now. It's just a much better thing for Knight in Shining Armor. Makes that person part of her story more. And then again, watch the first video if you want to know all about that whole story. I'm not going to go down it. I'm just highlighting the stuff that's new. So that's the stuff that's new in the save path, which is young Rachel, access to those broken lanterns and stuff. This also, when you return to her settlement and you roll down here, so when you save her, the other thing you can do is gain the Chosen Vestments for going through here. So for Chosen Vestments, go down and look at this new gear. Where's Chosen Vestments? Right here. So these are dragon vestments. This is what someone who has played in the dragon, people of the stars, this is what they would be when they become a person of the stars, right? They get these chosen vestments. So she is a person of the stars. You add 2 to all hit locations. When you gain a random disorder, gain a random fighting art instead. So this is disorder prevention. Even though it's kind of sucks, you're going to keep replacing your fighting arts. It's disorder prevention. Disorder prevention can be good. I think disorder prevention is really good, especially if you already have your survivor set. Say you have someone who's got like immortal and you don't want them to get any more. You don't want to replace that or anything. You don't want to mess up that. You don't want something to make it so they can't gain insanity or something. I think Disorder Protection is quite good. So that's basically what this card is. It's just a gear. It's you can see it doesn't have an armor location, so it's just +2 to all hit locations. It's just an item, and that's it. So she had that in her house. She lost it. She went back to her house, her old settlement, to get her stone, her the Lovelorn Rock, and to get her chosen vestments, because she was exiled by the tyrant the second she got cursed. It doesn't help any person of the chosen can't be cursed in his eyes. It makes them impure. So that's the save path. Now let me scroll up to the path that got the most reworking is the reject path. It's the same as what we just talked about before. You're going to be presented with the 3 options. So this is when you kick her out. Let's go back to search the area. You've kicked her out. You get this trail of blood, right? The survivors find a trail of blood leading into the darkness. The girl has found a way to escape death. Stunned, the survivors return to the settlement to decide how to proceed. There is no telling how deep into the darkness she went. The returning survivor with the most hunt experience gains the strategist fighting art and +1 courage. All returning survivors gain +2 insanity. Add Trail of Blood to the next lantern year. So now let's look at Trail of Blood. So this is them finding the Trail of Blood. Again, she's just covered in that red stuff. The red, like the black fluid. So she's leaving behind a trail. Deliberations within the settlement take place. All this stuff is exactly the same. So the stuff that has changed here is Unwavering Determination has changed slightly. It's when you depart, you gain +1 reroll token. You may spend this token to reroll a single hunt result during the hunt phase. So this also has King's Coin attached to it. This is also new. Otherwise, it's Search Party and Seek and Destroy. Again, I would watch the other videos if you want to know all about these events. I'm going to skip over them. Search Party. The new thing in this one is... this one hasn't changed. This one is the one that gets King's Coin added to it. Seek and Destroy. So this is the one where you would kill her. This is the Assassinate the Girl route. This is where you're setting out to kill her. I'll look at the story here. So this is 3. The hunting party will follow the trail of blood, find the girl, and bring her back. This survivor plans to kill the girl, as bringing her back will be more difficult, right? So the settlement has decided that, look, why don't you bring her back and we'll judge her and give her a fair trial and stuff. But this guy is crazed, and he's keeping secrets. So the nominated survivor gains crazed fighting art and secretive disorder. He's just going to kill her. That's what the Seek and Destroy is. So this story event is this person sets out to kill her secretively, even though they would like to bring her back and, get her halberd and stuff. This 3rd branch here is what's changing huge. This wasn't as well thought out, or it wasn't as planned out for focusing on this one survivor, right? In version 1, you kill her, it triggers her to, her curse. She turns into a Kingsman there, kills someone because she's a butcher, and then you're just left without a 3rd person, and then that's where you find out, all this stuff about her being really strong. You can't kill her, right? In the original version 1, then she comes back even stronger. That triggers her butcher change and everything. She comes back with a purpose. She comes back, and if you lose to her, she'll kill these other 3 people. So that's what it was in version 1. Now, like I said, now I've done more to focus more on this. The person who decided to do this, and if they were successful. Last time, if they were successful, you just killed her, you got the Lantern Halberd early, and you didn't have to fight a Kingsman level 2. Great, right? It's a pretty good reward in itself, not having to fight a Kingsman level 2. You get an extra hunt out of it. That's where version 1 went with it. Now I've done a whole bunch of stuff to change this all out, to flesh out this character. So let's go down with Seek and Destroy. This is almost like a whole new path of itself. The seek and destroy here. So this is the one where you set out to kill her. This is her becoming mad. So the trail has been difficult in the minds of the hunters. Horrible dreams and strange wailing smoke tested their sanity. Mad flies fueled their rage and drove them berserk. Some experienced night terrors so bad they would thrash around in their sleep. Finding the dead monster implied the girl's still alive. So that's references to all these hunt events. You're going to get mad flies, all these things that are just hugely affecting your insanity and driving you crazy. The reference for night terrors and stuff, that's reference to Forsakers before they become butchers. That's why they chain up their stuff to their wrists. Finding the dead monster impaled on something is hinting towards her breaking her spear or breaking the halberd and using it as just a spear end. So the hunters enter the overwhelming darkness where the blood trail ends. Within moments they find the girl resting against a giant stone face, sharpening the axe head of the halberd with a shiny rock, right? So she's got her rock with her and she's using it to polish her, or to sharpen her blade. Her condition has improved, in a manner of speaking, as she seems to be wearing some new armor. This is her curse taking more control of her. Her lantern halberd has been damaged, and the axe head can be seen tied to her arm with some cloth, right? So she's tied the axe head. She's broken it. The shaft has been repurposed into a spear and lays at her side. The path she took nearly drove all the hunters berserk, and all humanity might be lost within her, right? Reasoning with her might not be something you could do anymore, as she might be driven berserk. Choose survivor next course. Calmly approach, leave her alone, or stick to the plan. So calmly approach has been altered. You can fail this, and she just walks away, and then it's just unexpected return gets added. Or 4+, you could calmly approach. Before, what this was you calmly approach, and then she agreed to return to the settlement with you. That's where part 1 took it, and then that way you can go back down the save path. It was like a get out of jail free card is what this was. Like, oh man, I don't want to have to fight her. Now that you know where this was leading, you could choose this option and be like, man, I don't want to fight her. That's what these other ones are. So now it's risk aversion. So the reason why I changed this for risk aversion was, as people have pointed out, they did want to kill her, but they just didn't want to, like, assassinate her up front, right? Maybe they still want to kill her, but they want to take her by surprise. It seemed there was like a duality in the thought process of departing with this guy wanting to kill her and wanting to do it secretive, and then to just let her come back. So I agreed. That was good feedback. So now it leads to risk aversion. So let's look at risk aversion. Here is risk aversion, and this is for the greater good. If the showdown ended in defeat, right? So this is, you take the girl, she agrees to go with you, you take her with you to hunt. If the showdown ended in defeat, add unexpected return and land in year 19 on the timeline and end this event. If not, you continue. So the hunting party takes a well-deserved break after successfully killing their quarry. They harvest the carcass and pack up as much as they can carry for the trip back to the settlement. Needing to regain strength for the return trip, the party feasts on the rest of the monster's remains, the stuff they can't carry. They also share with what is left with the girl. Everyone on the hunt knew that letting the girl live posed a risk to the settlement. The plan was always to kill her, and this moment presents the perfect opportunity. While the girl feasts, the other survivors nominate survivor to execute a sneak attack. So here's the sneak attack. The girl is completely distracted by the feast. Nominated survivor unassumingly steps away from the group, decisively turning once they move past the seated girl and drive their weapon into her back. It pierces her spine, sends a bone fragment directly into her heart, and she dies instantly. So this is play on Kingsman having the weak spot in their back. So they just quickly turn, shove it into their back. Plan seems to have gone off without a hitch. Everything the girl had now belongs to the hunting party. Gain the broken halberd and the Kingsman cleaver. So the reason why you're gaining this now is because you don't have to fight her when she comes back to the settlement. You've now killed her. Now we've already gone over those. Nominated survivor gains the boss nickname, and the other survivors gain the muscle nickname. All survivors with muscle nickname feel empowered by the quickly executed kill and gain +1 permanent strength and speed. They decide to paint the blood of the girl onto their bodies, using some of the bones from the quarry as a crude brush. It only takes smearing blood on one body part to realize their mistake. The girl's blood is acid. These survivors must roll on a hit location die, and then this is the table here. So again, Kingsman's blood is acid blood, so doing that permanently scars them. So you roll here a hit location die. You could get burnt nerves and blind, gaping chest wound. Burnt nerves is you're just immune to bash. If you put it on your hands, you get acid palms. These are just abilities. And then the nominated survivor suddenly can sweat profusely, and their flesh bubbles with extreme heat. The survivor must King's Curse. So the person who executes a sneak attack gains the curse. Remove any nemesis encounter with Kingsman from Lantern Year 19 on the timeline. So you remove, just like version 1, you remove the hunt, and you add a Regal Return to the next Lantern Year. So let's look at a Regal Return. The survivor with the boss nickname must be alive to trigger this event. So boss is the person who kills the girl. It's always going to be the person who kills the girl. If they are not, you skip this event and add Urgent Purpose and Lantern Year 19 on the timeline. All right. The hunting party returns with a new perspective. Regal armor is more than a curse. It is a symbol of true power. The survivor with the boss nickname proclaims themselves an undisputed leader of the settlement, informing those who wish to challenge this claim that they will be killed just like the girl. Boss is strong. Boss is changed. This is references to the murder event. When you gain the murder event, settlement event in Kingdom Death, they the survivors paint the blood with the murder victim and stuff, empowering them, all these things. So, and this guy's crazed. So these are just illusions that he has. He thinks he's just super strong now. So boss has new plans for the settlement. The Lantern Horde is not a symbol of true protection. I need to add an A there. Boss is a hero. Boss is a symbol. The hunting party still has the settlement's weapons, and with this advantage, they will make an example of a survivor, right? So when you return, even though the settlement phase takes place in Kingdom Death, you don't actually remove the returning survivor's gear until the prepared departing survivors phase. So the entire settlement phase, the returning survivors always have their gear, and it's just it's a reference to. It's kind of weird that all survivors just give everything they have to the hunting party. I know they depend on them to survive, to return with food and resources and stuff, but leaves them in a disadvantaged state if they were ever to go crazy and, try to take over the settlement. And that's what happens here. So boss is, again, with the settlement event murder, the boss becomes a self-proclaimed leader just because they killed someone. That's what they make an example. Now they're self-proclaiming their leadership over the settlement. Randomly select a non-returning survivor of age 3 or more. If there are no age 3, do age 2, and then age 1. This is just, they're picking someone who's seen as strong, right? Because age milestones aren't necessarily age, right? They're like a symbol of experience. Before continuing the summon phase, then you do a new era. So then you just get the results here. You can either rebel, this like the hand. That's why it's a regal return. So a regal visit is the hand where you can rebel against the hand. If the settlement collectively rises up against the hunting party, again because they have all the weapons, do not resolve a new era. Instead, before you continue the settlement phase, you regicide. So again, regicide is killing of a king. He is a Kingsman. Let's look at these other results here. This has to do with the muscle nickname. So the survivors who... we'll go back to that. Where was it? Risk aversion. Yes. All survivors gain muscle. Right. Nominated survivor gains a boss nickname, and all other survivors gain the muscle nickname. So the boss is the one who killed him. The muscle is everybody else who was part of the hunting party. That's who the muscle are. And he's going to use them as people who agree with him. He's already got huge influence over them. They already agreed to go out and kill the girl with him secretively. So, boss stands atop a giant stone face. Boss instructs the survivors with the muscle nickname To bring the selected survivor up, this is whoever was nominated, is here. Boss draws a weapon in the survivor's back. Again, he's cowardly. He attacks people in the back. That's what this is influencing. Killing them instantly. Boss is strong. Rebel against boss to avoid this loss. All right, so again, this is just like Regal Return. So let's look at, let's go down the New Era. Let's go New Era first, and then we'll come back to Regicide. New Era. So New Era. Boss is going to be the first hero. This is all going to reference the first hero expansion, where in the first hero expansion, one survivor believes they're so strong, they just gather up all the weapons and they do all the hunting by themselves. So this is Boss becoming what essentially is, he wants to be a settlement with a first hero. He wants to be that first hero. That's where he wants, that's the direction he's taking the settlement now. So, Boss begins to make very bold declarations of how the settlement will be run going forward. It is time for the settlement to learn to protect itself from the encroaching darkness. Growing in strength is the only thing that matters, and those who are strongest should do the hunting. The best way to display true power is to prove it in combat. Boss departs the settlement, remember he's still got the girl's gear, right? With the girl's weapons and seeks out a monster. The weakest monsters are still found closest to the settlement. This is reference to what happens with Blackout when weak monsters leave because there's no more light. So you can't hunt level 1s or 2s anymore. You must hunt level 3s. That's what this is alluding towards. And Boss returns with a fresh kill. The survivors in the settlement are stunned to see a monster killed single-handedly. Boss is different. Boss is a hero. Fight has also advanced the King's Curse, again because it happens in the aftermath. And Boss takes one more step towards succumbing to it. Gain 4 random basic resources and 4 random monster resources of the lowest node monster on the settlement's quarry list. Again, this is so it could be used if you had Croc or something. He's just killing the lowest node. It's White Lion. Going forward, Boss will start the year hunting near the settlement alone, while survivors named Muscle hunt normally. This lantern year, all survivors with the Muscle nickname must depart. So you have to depart with all of them. Boss is no longer considered a survivor of the settlement. Archive the record sheet of the survivor with the Boss nickname. -1 population. Boss is the only protection the settlement needs. It is time to dismantle the Lantern Horde and use the resources to make powerful weapons. A new era begins. Then you dismantle the Lantern Horde. Then you add Solo Hunt or Solo Hunt King's Coin to the next year. So dismantling the Lantern Horde. Boss instructs the survivors to remove the unlit lanterns first. Scrap will be smelted into iron and then used to build a sculpture in honor of Boss. Iron is a symbol of power, much like Boss. As more and more lanterns are removed, survivors begin to struggle to breathe. Toxic gas coming from within the Lantern Horde starts to poison survivors. This is what happens when you get the exhausted Lantern Horde and you try to go in there without the Watcher and the cocoon open and everything. It's got poisonous toxic air in there. So, work is halted immediately. You add settlement event Plague to the next lantern year. Boss demands the sculpture be completed this lantern year. You may complete the structure to gain its benefits or ignore Boss. So if you complete the structure, the survivors push themselves to create an inspirational sculpture with the likeness of Boss. This proves to be almost fatal for those involved. Roll 1d5. That number of survivors are infected by the toxin. All these survivors must skip the next hunt and be added to the total count of infected during Plague next year. So when you resolve Plague, all returning survivors, then you roll, they become like infected, so then you add this number to the infected. So you could have like a total of 9 infected survivors with Plague. That's pretty bad. And then you may use this sculpture for the remaining campaign. Once per lantern year, a survivor may gain inspiration from Boss. So they built now the sculpture. That's what this is, sculpture innovation. Roll 1d10 on a 6+, gain the heroic Boss secret fighting art. So then you could ignore this. The survivors stop removing lantern from the horde. Toxic air is far too dangerous. Add 2d10 scrap from the settlement storage. It's good that you get a lot of scrap stopping dismantling this thing, because you're not going to smelt it into iron. You're not going to continue building the sculpture. Boss is annoyed by the settlement's lack of determination. Boss is a sore loser. You lose 3 basic resources and 3 monster resources gained by this. So you lose the 3 gained here. You only get to keep 1. Let's look at heroic Boss. Go down. Here's the heroic boss, secret fighting art. Weapons in your gear grid that you have attained mastery in gain deflect 1. Or increase their deflect value by 1. So you could have a shield. If you're a mastery in shield, you could have a deflect 3. Or any weapon is going to gain deflect 1, which is pretty good. And then on arrival, gain a number of +1 strange tokens equal to your age. This has actually been fixed. I need to fix this page. I forgot to do it, I guess. It actually reads your age milestone now. I think. So yeah, this should say your age milestone. So you could gain like 3 or 4 age tokens. You know, the better experience you are. So that's what the fighting art is. That's the secret fighting art. Let's go back to Solo Hunt would be where the story goes from there. Here is Solo Hunt. So, Solo Hunt. A familiar figure slowly walks into view. Boss prepares to depart alone for the second lantern year in a row. While packing up, a scout informs Boss that a dim lantern light is slowly approaching the settlement. Unfazed, Boss departs. Slowly, a familiar figure marches into view. Again, this is rewording the Butcher. Her curse's original arrival with the Butcher. That's what this is rewording. A growing audience builds within the settlement, watching as events unfold. Boss and what appears to be the girl meet each other on the outskirts of the settlement. Miraculously, the girl is free of the king's curse. Survivors are stunned as they watch Boss somehow speak with the girl. So someone that looks exactly like Curse shows up, carrying another lantern halberd, carrying everything that Curse had. It looks exactly like her, but can somehow talk now. Suddenly, without warning, the girl makes weird, crooked steps, disappearing and reappearing behind Boss. Violently, the girl's lantern halberd pierces Boss's back, killing Boss instantly, thrusting the shaft of the halberd into the stone-faced ground. The girl watches as Boss dies impaled on the halberd. So basically what happens is this girl here shows up, impales Boss completely through the back, jams the shaft of the halberd into the stone faces, and just lets Boss slide down the halberd. Then you nominate a survivor to calmly approach. So calmly approach is a reference again to what you would have done with the girl originally. You want to calmly approach her. So all this is calling back to all the other save the girl stuff and all the other story events and how you handle dealing with her. The girl proceeds to place items at the base of the halberd. As the survivor slowly approaches, the girl appears to match the exact description of the girl who was chased by the Butcher. She even has the same scars on her face. This must be the same girl. The only difference is the lack of curse and a strange book-like relic with living lips tied to her waist. So that's the strange relic get in a hunt event that gives you innovations. It speaks a different language, but learns any language that you speak, and then speaks back to you. So that's how she's using it she's using it basically as a translation. That weird relic, or I forget what it's called. Yeah, weird relic, I think is the hunt event's name. Roll 1d10 as the survivor investigates the scene. So we got 1 to 2 here. The girl left behind some items at the base of the halberd. These things must carry some form of sentimental value for her. Looking at how she left Boss impaled on the halberd makes the survivor think this was on purpose. Suddenly, the survivor spots the most amazing rock left behind by the girl. Why would she do this? The survivor gains a level-worn rock. So, basically, what's happening here is a copy, it would appear, of Curse shows up, creates a makeshift grave for her, must have known who killed her, kills Boss very easily using crooked steps to do so, and then left her rock at the bottom of the grave. And we'll just skip over these as they slowly get better. I'll just read the best one now. Only the level 1 rock is on 1 and 2, that's why I started there. So now, same exact things here. Girl left behind some items at the base of the halberd. These things must carry some form of sentimental value for her. Looking at how she left Boss impaled in the halberd makes the survivor think this was on purpose. Hung on the halberd is a fine red cloak, complete with some jewelry. The survivor sees a large rock and some iron trinkets left at the base of the halberd. Do these belong to her? What does this mean? Best to leave the halberd alone. It must mean something. Again, it's a makeshift grave. That's why I use the grave thing here. The survivor scoops up the iron, takes the cloak and jewelry, and returns to the settlement. Add 5 iron and the portcullis key. Again, the girl watch the first video. She had a portcullis key in her possession. The girl did. The curse did. If Sun already has one, gain 1 iron instead. Gain the chosen vestments. We already talked about chosen vestments. She had that back at her house. And the guidepost innovation to the settlement, because now there's a guidepost sticking out because she just left it out in front of the settlement with boss impaled on it. So, lore-wise, this one's up for debate exactly what happened. I'm leaving the door open in case this ever gets further proved, but maybe not. So what this is, spoilers all about. The girl is I forget what it is. The people of the stars now. The person who creates stone faces, the entity. I can't remember his name. Why can't I remember his name? Anyway, so when you do that, when you awaken that entity, and I wrote it on here. Limb Maker. She has Limb Maker, but what is the? I can't remember the name of the entity. Anyway, it's the entity that gives Limb Maker. But in order for you to become a Limb Maker, in order for you to do those things, yeah, right here, Limb Maker. The girl possesses very unique talent, unlike anything that someone has ever seen. She's able to carve prosthetic limbs from the various stone faces and pendants. Remove a survivor injury and add 1 bone to the settlement. So Limb Maker is what she's able to do because of what she awoken as in People of the Stars. And sculptor. She's a sculptor. When you do that, you see a replica face of yourself, or what you believe to be a replica face of yourself in the stone faces. You carve it out and carve out a body, and then you create an exact duplicate of yourself when you awaken. Now, that means she awoke prior to killing a Kingsman. So she created a duplicate of herself that is not cursed. That is what shows up here. The duplicate is what has shown up. That duplicate, who was already a People of the Stars, so this is where it's up for debate here. You can interpret the lore however it is you want. So that duplicate must have completed the ritual or was not chosen to be at the very end of People of the Stars. And then what happens is, at the end of People of the Stars, when you defeat all that and everything, I don't want to spoil all that, but I mean, I guess I've already spoiled everything else, but what happens is it's either everyone dies or they become Dragon Kings themselves or whatever, but somewhere along the line, she can mimic the movements of the tyrant. That's what these crooked steps are. So when she became a People of the Star, either the tyrant did something special for her and allowed her to become a tyrant, and that's why she's so powerful enough to just kill boss like nothing. That's why she does weird crooked steps. So either Curse has a tyrant clone of herself with tyrant powers. That's what's implied here. That's the end of this branch. Let's go back to what happens if you regicide. So that's the boss path. Now if you rebel and you do regicide, here's regicide. Nominated survivor, rebel against boss, and you get all this stuff for whoever was nominated, the age 2, age 3, age 4, all that. The survivors of the settlement pursue a fleeing boss around the ever-darkening lantern horde. Angry outbursts fill the settlement. Hastily, the coward dives into the darkened lanterns, fleeing beneath them into a vast chamber. So boss is actually a coward. That's why he attacks people in the back. It's very alluded to as to why boss attacks people in the back. How he's used his muscle to do everyone else's things. So if he's not supported by his muscle, he's just a coward. And that's what's here. If you rebel against him, if you do regicide. he's going to just flee. So, fleeing beneath him the vast chamber. He's looking for protection, right? Suddenly, from the settlement, survivors from the settlement follow. Slumbering in the center of the chamber, boss feels a protective presence from within the cocoon. This is the same presence that you feel throughout the entire campaign. It's the same thing that brings the survivors after the prologue to the Lantern Horde, that overwhelming feeling of security. What is it? Unwilling to... That's spelled wrong. I have to do that. I have to fix this. Unwilling to accept their fate at the hands of the settlement, boss burrows into the cocoon membrane and inside for safety. The cocoon begins to flash with light, and the light beams arc to the cocoon walls. Boss is dead. Record what regal gear boss had in his gear grid on the settlement record sheet. Starting with the settlement phase, the survivors may awaken and face a sleeping menace. You may move Nemesis Encounter Watcher to the current Lantern Year, and then add the Shocking Fate to the Lantern Year after the Nemesis. You cannot move it to a year that already has a Nemesis encounter on the timeline. Oh, so this removed Watch too. It's up here. It says it removed Watch. And then this will substitute as Watch. The settlement has a response to the event based on their conviction. So then it's either barbaric or romantic response. And then settlement watches as boss disappears from sight. It only takes a few moments before the cocoon inside of the chamber fills with lightning. These arcing bolts reveal the haunting silhouette of the ultimate predator slumbering inside. Again, this is Watcher. So what happens is he burrows himself into the cocoon and he just gets shocked all around with the lightning that's in there. You can see it arcing to the edge of the cocoon. And then you just get the normal stuff from Ultimate Weapon or Ultimate Fighting Art. This is the normal watched event just placed here because you now removed it. And then then you add Shocking Fate to the Lantern Year after the Nemesis. So once you defeat Watcher, you add Shocking Fate to wherever it is you want to move it. So the Shocking Fate, going out like a boss. As you can see here, with the Watcher gone, the Lantern Horde is extinguished. The exhausted Lantern Horde is nothing more than a tomb for burnt-out lanterns. The vast chamber offers very little besides an empty cocoon and broken lanterns. Slowly, the toxic air that filled the cocoon will begin to fill the entire chamber. Again, this is moments before the exhausted Lantern Horde becomes a thing, because when you get that settlement event, you can go in there and get lanterns or get tubes or get cocoon membrane and stuff. You can investigate the chamber, but it's just filled with toxic air. So this will be the last chance any survivor will have to descend this deep into the cocoon. Attempts to investigate the chamber in the future will be far more dangerous. That's the settlement event, or the settlement location, exhausted Lantern Horde. You may nominate one survivor to descend to the very bottom of the chamber and investigate the cocoon. You roll 1d10. This event can only be re-rolled using methods available to the nominated survivor, meaning that only they can re-roll this. If they have their lifetime re-roll, they can re-roll it. If they have the Crimson Jewel, they can re-roll it. If they have something that gives them a re-roll, they can use it. They have to be wearing that gear. You can't just re-roll this with a whole bunch of other people like you can normally in the settlement phase. The nominated survivor holds their breath and attempts to reach the center of the cocoon. Reaching the center of the cocoon, you find the blackened bones of a survivor. Only the armor this survivor wore survived the combustion process. Hastily attempting to take the armor causes the bones to turn to soot and acid to spew from the armor. You cry out in pain, inhaling a lungful of toxic air. You are dead. That's what happens. So that's boss laying there. His bones have turned to soot. The armor's been... So then, if the nominee survivor has legendary lungs, secret fighting art, they always use the 7, 8, 9, and 10 result. So, if you have legendary lungs, you can use all these to just always use 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, you find a corpse. You find a corpse in armor and rip off one piece. Gain a random piece of oxidized regal gear, matching the regal gear boss had. So, the most you could ever have is 4 pieces of regal gear, because if you triggered the 5th, they would walk off. So if you had the most on boss when he ran in there, all 4 or one of those pieces you'd randomly determine, or you just choose. Gain one, oh no, it's a random piece of oxidized gear matching the regal gear. You just get one. 7, 8, 9 result. You find a corpse and attempt to carry it out of the chamber. The bones turn to soot and acid spews from the armor. You struggle but make it out. Suffer the destroyed back severe body injury. So the reason why you'd get a destroyed back doing this is because you're going to carry out the whole corpse. it's going to get acid on your back and stuff. Gain the oxidized regal gear matching each piece of regal gear boss adds. This would be the one where you gain all 4. So let's look at oxidized regal gear. This is just the King's Curse gear. So here it is, oxidized regal gear. It's the same. The only difference is it's outfit. So you can wear this. It doesn't trigger any more curses. It's just been oxidized by being inside the lantern cocoon and getting arced on it. It's calcified and all those things. So here's the waist. You may flip any one movement token. So this is if the monster had a plus movement token, you could flip it to a minus. So that's nice. Or you can flip your minus. Just spend an action. You flip your minus tokens you're gaining from Silent Hymn. You flip them into positives. So that's regal. That's the waist. Again, these are all pretty powerful because the only way you could ever get 4 would be to hugely metagame to get 4. How you would get 4 is before you decided to go out and kill the girl, you would send a survivor who was already cursed. And you would hope that they'd trigger the curse 2 more times, ending with 4 when they finally die. Otherwise, you're only going to get 2 of these at random. So they have to be pretty good. Oxidized Regal Greaves outfit means you can wear it anywhere. Whenever the monster's AI or hit location deck is reshuffled, you may spend X survival to deflect X, maximum of 3. So it's pretty powerful. Oxidized Regal Gauntlets outfit again. Whenever you attack before drawing hit locations, you may choose to discard the top card. If you choose to discard the trap, you trigger it. But it's before you draw. So before you look at it, if you have Cat Eye Circle, you already know what's there. So you could attack in, and then you could just discard the top one. Oxidized Regal Helm. After you are hit, after all damage, so it's after you're hit, after the damage, you may move 1 space away from the monster. So that's that. After all damage, meaning that you have to resolve all of it before you move. And then Oxidized Regal Placard. After you are hit, after damage, you may gain a bleed token. Draw a hit location card and make a wound attempt against that monster. So against the monster, with that. So you gain a bleed, draw a hit location card, and then you can attempt to wound it. Pretty good for the Oxidized Regal stuff. Now we have... So that's everything from... Well, it's not everything. There's still something else we'll go back to. But that's the story of Boss. That's the kill the girl. That's the reject path that has been broadly... It used to just be go out and kill her, then she comes back as a hybrid butcher Kingsman. That was the whole thing for Boss. Let's go look at... Where was it? Assassinate. So that was this Seek or Destroy. That was Risk Aversion. That was going all down the whole path for Risk Aversion. Let's say you don't and you just want to assassinate her right away. You're just going to kill her right now on the hunt. So Assassinate the Girl is here. Again, this is still the same from 1. I've just flipped these around. So now the lower result is you dying more often than not. You're going to kill her. So when you kill her, it's the same thing. You add a Regal Return and remove the settlement event from that year. So this makes it more likely that Boss can die, because settlement events can kill Boss before you resolve story events. Removing it, so if you just outright assassinate her, you're getting a little bit protection for Boss to not die, because a lot of settlement events target returning survivors. This is a way to protect him, as well as everything else. You know, you still gain the Broken Halberd, Cleveland's Cleaver, all those stuff. You still gain it. This is just a safer way to ensure that Boss survives. However, you risk death here. So, not fooled. Girl senses the ambush. As the nominated survivor lunges, the girl fluidly steps aside, causing the survivor to miss and land at her feet. The girl quickly counters, decapitating the nominated survivor. Their neck erupts in a shower of gore. They are dead. This is the outcome in the dreams and the night terrors alluded towards. Not seeing the others as a threat, again, because she's a butcher, the girl menacingly stands over the decapitated corpse of the nominated survivor. Again, Butchers only really target threats. The other survivors hide, gaining the post-traumatic stress disorder and the spineless nickname. Add Berserk Kingsman to Lantern Year 19 on the timeline. Save the nominated survivors record sheet until after that event. Before advancing on the hunt board, Distant Lantern Light. So this is where someone died during the hunt. And again, just like with Rachel, Distant Lantern Light, I've now added someone to join back up to strengthen your party back to 4. So, Distant Lantern Light, this is again just someone showing up. The survivors rush to gather their gear. As in the distance, they notice the light from the lantern. It must be the girl's lantern halberd, as she wants to return her loot. Spinelessly, as again, oops, let me scroll down so you can read it. Spinelessly, the survivors decide to give up rather than being stalked endlessly. This is again hinting towards that the muscle and stuff, they're really cowardly and spineless. They don't really want to engage. That's why if you do regicide, they just kind of give up. They're like, ugh, too many people. So, here they interpret the lantern light in the distance to be the girl coming back. So, they can't make out the figure in the light. So, here's figure in the light. This is the same thing as young Rachel, pretty much. Except for, surprise the party is given a greeting they understand. Again, because they've been dealing with the girl so much, they're used to someone not speaking their language. This can't be the girl, as she did not speak their language. Serene comfort overtakes the survivors as this wanderer speaks to them. The wanderer is what remains of a hunting party tasked to kill a monster with horns taking on terrible twisted shapes. So, the survivors introduce themselves as the hunting party for their settlement. Shocked, the wanderer questions why a hunting party would depart without lanterns. Confused by the question, they explain how the lantern horde guides them home. An expression of horror comes over the wanderer, and they insist on helping with the hunt. So again, this is another survivor that they meet that's from a settlement that has a watcher still alive. Start a new survivor sheet. This is the same exact thing as young Rachel I've already described. Except this person has 4 ranks of club proficiency, and they have the Lantern Guard Club and the Watch Lantern, right? So they're departing with the reason why they're shocked that none of these that you were departing without lanterns is because she has lanterns that are made from the exhausted lantern horde, right? She's expecting someone to have a final lantern with them. That's what she's already lived through, Watcher and all those things. So, that's her story. She has Lantern Guard Club and the Watch Lantern, in addition to Cloth and Frenzy Drink. Again, reason for Frenzy Drink is she takes lore from the Lantern Guard survivors that on the store, they use Frenzy Drink to keep them awake as they do the settlement watch. That is what they do, and you can see here. When they start to fall asleep, they use the spikes to keep them awake, so they can keep watch. And then let's see. So, if you wish, you may change your hunt to this survivor's quarry. The party will follow the same whales that led this survivor out of their settlement. Clear the hunt board and change your quarry to legendary monster Mad Steed. Set up the hunt board as that event instructs, and begin on the overwhelming darkness space. Otherwise, continue your hunt as normal. So this lets you switch to Mad Steed if you wanted to. At the end of this showdown, if this survivor is still alive, permanently add the Unconscious Epiphany Strain Milestone card to the Strain Milestone deck, and add Ultimate Predator to the next Lantern Year. So, again, same deal as what we went over with young Rachel. So, what was it? Ultimate Predator. Ultimate Predator. So, Lantern Horde just came alive and attacked us. This is a reference to the Predator movie, when they reference the jungle just coming alive and attacking them because the Predator has cloaks. So, again, Nemesis, horror movie tropes, that's what I went with. If the survivor gained during Distant Lantern Light, that's the Lantern Guard survivor, is dead, do not resolve this event. Survivors invite the new survivor to return with them to the settlement, and they happily agree. As the light from the lantern horde becomes visible on the horizon, the survivor begins to panic. They fear for the fates of all survivors within the settlement. The survivor suggests that they pick up the pace and return as soon as possible. The settlement is in great danger. Again, she's from a settlement that they've already defeated Watcher. She knows all about this. Once within the settlement, the new survivor rushes to the Lantern Horde. Much like this survivor's settlement, the Lantern Horde is slowly growing dim. The survivor explains why the lanterns have been slowly going out and how little time remains to prepare. Knowing what will awaken, the survivors make plans to best prepare for the settlement's future, starting with revealing the truth. A nervous hush falls over the settlement as the survivors describe the Watcher. Slowly, the most daring survivor enters the vast chamber below. The Horde. Unknown and undreamed of, slumbering in the center, they see the ultimate predator. Remove Watch, much like young Rachel's. This survivor explains how their settlement defeated the Watcher and how their way of life was affected. The survivors are at an advantage and they can better prepare. First, they must gather as many lit lanterns as they can from the Lantern Horde. Second, survivors will form settlement watches and light up the settlement as best they can. Third, they can develop new weapons and fighting arts. Finally, they will fight the Watcher when it is weakest. Gain the ultimate weapon, final fighting art, and Settlement Watch. And then with Settlement Watch here it says replace any current version of Settlement Watch innovations. So Settlement Watch is an innovation that's in Manhunter. So again, I tried to make it core so you don't need that stuff. So this is a new version of Settlement Watch. So if you had Settlement Watch, you would replace it with this one. These do not count towards the Settlement Innovation total. When told to lose either Ultimate Weapon or Final Fighting Art, you lose both. However, you would keep Settlement Watch. The survivors will awaken and face the Sleeping Menace when it is weak. Move Nemesis Watcher encounter to Lantern Year 20. So this forces Lantern Year 20 when the Watcher's at its weakest. And that's the end of this. And much like Rachel, I wanted to continue the Lantern Guard story without including it in Curse, because Curse is still about her. I didn't want to include all kinds of story events relating to other different people than Curse. The point is you play with Curse. So, much like young Rachel, I went the other route to continue her story. So, let's go down. We'll look at... here's Unconscious Epiphany. So this is a strain milestone that gets added. The survivor gained during Light experiences syncope when endeavoring at bloodletting. So, bloodletting is, again, using the Lantern's Guard from the shop, using that lore that's included there. They drive the spike into themselves to keep themselves awake. So, you go to bloodletting, you do that. It's what they do anyway, and then they experience syncope, which is one of the results from bloodletting. Cavernous hunger is no way to combat being sleep deprived. That's how the lore thing says they do it. They just don't eat, and the hunger and the madness from the frenzy drinks keeps them awake, plus them constantly hitting themselves in the neck with their spikes. The survivor slips quickly into unconsciousness as blood drips from their vein. If more survivors took watch, the survivor could eat again, right? Seeing as she was the only one that's doing watch right now. She's the one who set up all the watches. She's the one teaching everybody watch. They awake with the vision of how to gear more watch members and gain the binge eating disorder. So, therefore, now, because she's going to teach everybody how to do watch, she's going to make more of these watch lanterns. She's going to do all this stuff. So you permanently add watch lantern and Lantern Guard Club patterns to the pattern deck. Here's the new Settlement Watch as well. So, Survival Limit 1, you may always hunt level 2+ monsters. So the thing here is, with the Lantern Horde gone out and the lights growing, gone, the level 1 and 2 monsters are gone in the future after post-Watcher. You can only fight level 3s. Here, they've dismantled it. They made sure to only take lit lanterns because the Watcher is consuming the lanterns, powering itself up. That's, if you look at these, that's the lore behind why the Lantern Horde goes out. That's the image. See, all these tubes and everything. It's taking apart the Lantern Horde. It's eating the lights from the lanterns. So that's what it's doing. So with you taking the lit lights and spreading them around the settlement, you're lighting it up, right? So at least some level 2 monsters will still stick around. The presence being only within the final lantern now isn't as strong, so you still can't fight level 1s, but you can always fight level 2s, which is nice because some of the harder monsters that you may want to fight, like Lion God and stuff, the level 2 version or the level 3 versions are just crazy strong, and you might not be able to fight them anymore if you do Watcher at level 20. So me forcing you to fight Lantern Year 20 Watcher, I felt it better to at least let you still fight level 2 monsters. And then this is still the same as regular Settlement Watch. So that's Settlement Watch, that's this. This is the last of the bridge cards. Here's the pattern for Watch Lantern. So how patterns work is you get them from Insight. So you permanently add this to your game when you do this. So it goes to your Insight pattern deck. So whenever you trigger Insight, as it is now, you trigger Insight and you draw a card at random. This has Watcher, so you need to have the Watcher in your game in order to use this pattern. And it's the Watch Lantern. And then how it does is you reinforce the Heated Lantern with scrap, because you're making a new lantern, so you have to spend scrap. And you reshape the lantern to form new designs. That's taken from the lore of the Lantern Guard from the store. They carved as they're going crazy out there, drinking frenzy drink and being sleep deprived, they see the flowing shapes in the darkness, and they carve it into their lanterns. So that's what this does. So the cost you actually spend is, and you can make 4 of these. So the cost you actually spend is 1 Endeavor, 1 Survivor's Lantern. That's you get some more Survivor's Lanterns from the Exhausted Lantern Horde, and then 1 Scrap. You take watch duty and discuss the Shifting Darkness with the other guards. The Shifting Darkness is what they're carving into their lights. Compare the menacing shapes and let your sleep-deprived imagination run wild. And then you need to have heat the lantern, and carve the strange, hairy, swirling patterns you saw into it. That's all taken directly from the shop site for Lantern Guard, male and female. Let's look now at the Lantern Guard Club. So, Lantern Guard Club, you need to have Settlement Watch. This is not attached to Insight. So the second you get Settlement Watch, you just get a Lantern Guard Club. You just get the pattern. This means if you're using Manhunter, you can, in the future, just get this using Manhunter. So this requires the Manhunter expansion, or this, now you can permanently use this all your games moving forward. You could just add this to your innovation deck, and you could permanently use this one if you wanted, if you don't have Manhunter. So, how to make this is it costs 1 Watch Lantern, so you'd have to make this. You have to get the Watch Lantern, Ring Whip, and then 2 iron. So, coat the glass of the Watch Lantern with tempered glass. Create a strong metal shaft. Ensure the ring chains from the Ring Whip are attached properly, and then you affix iron spikes to the end of the ring chains. Remove the ring chain thongs from the Ring Whip and affix it to the Watch Lantern. Heat iron and 2 broken lanterns. So that's the 2 iron and 2 broken lanterns. At the blacksmiths, you create a shaft and tempered glass. Have a club specialist properly attach the Watch Lantern and tie it to the end of the club. That's how you'd make this. Let's look at Watch Lantern and Lantern Guard Club. So here's Watch Lantern. It's just a gear. It's just another lantern. And when you depart, you may rotate this in your gear grid. This should be bolded, depart here. I'll have to fix that. I think I did. I just might have forgotten to put it here on the print and play. So you can rotate this. So you can have this any different direction you want it to face. That's pretty much what it does. It's a very nice, very simple thing. Lantern Guard Club. This is 2-handed club, and it's also a lantern. It has slow, so if you find a way to ignore slow, Frenzy Drink does that. That's why, using the lore of all those things, they carry around Frenzy Drinks. You could attack speed 2. It has Provoke on it, which is great. It's a nice way of getting priority target. This comes from because you're using the lantern, the Ring Whip, to make this. So, when you are knocked down, you may gain 1 bleeding token to immediately stand. That's, them hitting themselves with that chain, the spike chain thing, and waking up. So, you are knocked down, you may gain 1 bleeding token and immediately stand. And it's a pretty strong weapon. That is everything except for the King's Coin stuff, which we'll look over right now. So, with King's Coin stuff, I changed here. This is the search party. So the hunters prepare to enter the realm of darkness. We talked about this with the portcullis and everything. They rush over to discover that she's unresponsive, bleeding out in near fatal condition. Next to her, they find a mysterious note. What could this be? Gain the scribe's autograph gear. Scribe's autograph gear is included in King's Coin. Luckily for the girl, the survivors found her just in time. Scribe's autograph gear relates to severe injuries and ignoring them. So that's why she's bleeding out. She hunted by herself. That's why she's in such good shape when you find her and you can stabilize her. Lost loved one, King Coin. This we already went over. This is where you get the chosen investments and all that stuff. Here, this alludes to her having King's Coins in storage. So with the King's Coin expansion, there's ways for you to pay for a cure to the curse. At this moment in time, she does not have enough. So you gain 2 King's Coin strange resources. She gives them to you in trade, like she said she would. So she doesn't quite have enough to cure the curse. She's 3 off. Now here in Solo Hunt, King's Coin, when the makeshift grave is made, you add 5 King's Coins. 5 King's Coins is the amount that you need to cure curse. This is when, her clone shows up, kills boss, and leaves this on her grave. So she must have gone out, gone to the caravans, found her sister, her clone, exactly what she needed, and then, but was too late. She's already dead. So, tragic. But, so she brings her back to chosen investments, and she puts down 5 King's Coins. Enough to cure her sister. So, that's the King's Coin things that you can do. As far as everything else changed, I just want to make sure we've gone over everything. All these other events, you can watch Curse 1. So, I would recommend you watch Curse 1. That explains the whole story a lot more. This only focused on the new stuff. So I just want to make sure. We went over Solo Hunt, Shocking Fate, went over Regicide, went over New Era, Regal Return, Ultimate Predator, Scary Dreams, Risk Aversion, Distant Lantern Light, Assassinate the Girl, that changed, went over that. Lost Loved One, we went over that. Silver Lantern, went over that. Hidden Secrets, we went over this. Seek and Destroy, we went over this. Search Party, we went over that. These ones don't really change. Oh, well, we went over these. This is the Judge thing. Went over the Without Words. Went over how I changed Judge slightly. Tend to the Girl. And that's it. Yeah, so we went over everything. Again, I'll go down here to the very bottom. So here's the print and play. How you would do these print and plays. See these lines here? You just cut right along the edge. Cut right along the edge here. And then you would have to just sleeve the cards in. I'll add backs here to the print and play as well. I just haven't done them yet. Again, that's just finalized stuff. I'm adding the touch-ups and everything now as we speak. So, but as far as the video goes, that is everything in Curse version 2 with all the print and play stuff. So hopefully it's entertaining. I know the last one with just the PDF, it is what it is. It's still very viable, the very first version of it. The first version of it contains none of this new stuff I just went over, but it's still the same story. I feel that story is still strong enough. It's still worth playing. It's still worth exploring all of the stuff that's in Curse version 1. This is just more. I will go over all the Tabletop Simulator stuff. I'm going to put it up with this post, so it'll be all the Tabletop Simulator stuff. Everything will be there. This is just more. Curse version 2 is just more. More of everything that Kingdom has to offer. I loved exploring the new stuff. I loved doing the strain milestones, the new strain secret fighting arts, the evolving fighting arts, patterns. I wanted to play with all the new stuff. Going forward, that new stuff really looks promising. It's as good as it is here, exploring those things. It feels like they're going to be really great in Gambler's Chest if there's more of stuff like this. Philosophies. This stuff feels like what a philosophy will play as. with what I did with the creature comfort, it feels like probably what you can expect from philosophies. Evolving fighting arts that cater to a specific playstyle. Again, I'll bring up creature comfort. Here it is one more time. That's what I'm talking about. Again, patterns. All this stuff's all coming in Gambler's Chest. Strains. All feels great. I'm so excited for Gambler's Chest. This just made me more excited for it. And as you can see here, what I'm talking about is this. The observations on philosophies and stuff where you gain +1. Now this evolved. And this is just a story in and of itself of young Rachel being traumatized, clinging to her lantern, then giving up the lantern, passing it on to someone else. Because like I said, it's not designed for her playstyle. It's designed for someone else. It's symbolic of giving it up, letting someone else take it. It's her becoming like a tank character. Her, helping now the settlement. She wants to stand up for these people who helped her. She gained ways for her to gain priority target, ways for her to gain more evasion, ways for her to heal herself. She just becomes a very impressive tank. Again, with all this other stuff, I've included ways to get provoke. I really do think monster targeting manipulation is a way that should be explored in Kingdom Death, right? Rather than just deck manipulation, card manipulation, AI manipulation, hit point manipulation. If you just gave survivors ways to manipulate targeting, maybe you wouldn't need to be so heavily invested into Rawhide Headband. Because the only reason why you're looking at Rawhide Headband is to know exactly what's coming and make sure who you want to get targeted is targeted. This route of giving ways to get priority target on yourself helps you control the fight without resorting to hit point manipulation. Or AI manipulation, not hit location manipulation. AI manipulation. So, hopefully, this was entertaining. I'm so glad that I get to share this stuff with people. I'm so glad I get to make these videos. Hopefully, like I said, this is targeted to people who want branching narrative or stories to be told within Kingdom Death. I am working on other things. I am working on actual monsters and stuff, but for now, this one's finished. This is the video, and thank you so much. I hope it was entertaining, even if you just want to hear design and why things are chosen to be that way. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next Lantern Year.